My history with Titanfall 2 goes against the grain. I think almost everyone in the core gaming space knows the tale of Titanfall 2's marketing suicide run, but if not, I guess I can catch you up to speed. During 2016's fall launch window, the usual two shooter blockbusters were ready for their classic battle. Battlefield 1 on October 26th and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare on November 4th. And sandwiched directly in between that, Titanfall 2 was sent out to steal sales from Infinite Warfare the week before on October 28th. Now, Call of Duty fans are die-hard franchise loyalists, and even if Infinite Warfare was the most disliked COD during its reveal in the franchise's history, the yearly players were going to buy regardless of what happened. Same goes for hardcore Battlefield fans. These people are locked in. Hence, being the two juggernaut franchises that they are, Titanfall 2 was essentially crushed under that weight, making it perform much worse on launch day than it should. And while EA's plan in the moment was to entice the competition, it seemed to have the opposite effect on me. Somehow, being the Battlefield fan that I am, having history with the franchise since Battlefield 2, and my favorite game being Battlefield 2142, the Battlefield game with the floating aircraft carriers and mechs, even with all that history under my belt, I dove directly into Titanfall 2, and I never regretted it once.
Stand by for Titanfall.
Create a mechanical harmony between asymmetric gameplay the way that Titanfall 2 achieves. In most competitive shooters, players find themselves on even ground in terms of abilities with their opponents. Meanwhile, in Titanfall, you are constantly faced with challenges that go beyond your own. Nothing dominates the field like a Titan. Giant mechanical exoskeletons armed with enough futuristic weaponry to level entire armies. Meanwhile, pilots, the small and nimble counterpart, could take down entire platoons with nothing but a knife and an aimbot pistol, making the gameplay between Titan and pilot more like cat and mouse. Titans consistently have the advantage while pilots are looking for ways to poke away at their opponent's health. With movement capabilities that take advantage of every surface, pilots move in ways I haven't ever seen players cover ground before. In this game, if you are running, walking, or sitting still, a high-skill player will remove you in seconds. Cover is an obstacle to use to your own benefit, not just something that can be worked around or broken down. Meanwhile, Titans, being the heavy hitters that they are, have to figure out how to punish the missteps of pilots. It's the intensity of the moment-to-moment gameplay here that makes the game so damn interesting to me. Matches start off with you actually jumping into location with an intro sequence, the way that the most recent CODs have finally adopted. From there, the match plays out like a typical team deathmatch, except AI units are scattered around the map for you to engage with, making every match feel way more active and alive than anything else. Dropships come down overhead, with units ziplining into each location, or just crash into the ground with drop pods to spill out more units. The main game mode is called Attrition. Whoever kills the most of the enemy's units wins. You get the most points for killing enemy pilots and Titans, making them the best incentive towards victory. But just going out and farming different types of units is still a good way to help your team, even if you can't go face-to-face with the other pilots or Titans, giving all skill types a chance to work towards something. Which leads into the best moment of the match, activating Titanfall.
It is good to see you again.
When the game launched, there were 6 different types of Titans for you to use, and a 7th released for free towards the end of the game's lifecycle. Each Titan comes with a determined primary weapon, offensive, defensive, and utility abilities, along with a specific number of dashes and bars of health based on the weight of the Titan chassis you are using, and a powerful single-use core ability that charges up over the course of your time in the Titan. Ion is a laser-focused Titan with a special energy bar that is used for abilities rather than cooldowns. The gun of choice is the splitter rifle with 2 fire modes, a primary automatic fire and a secondary 3-round split, that not only drains ammo but the energy bar. Ion brings back the famous Vortex Shield from the first game as the defensive ability that can absorb and reflect incoming enemy projectiles. The offensive ability being a shoulder-fired pinpoint precision laser that is brutal to be killed by. A tripwire utility that explodes when enemies cross it, and for a final ability, Ion has a chest-fired laser core that tears through anything that it's aimed at. Ion is the most basic Titan of the bunch, being the simplest to understand, yet still effective in all areas. Scorch is the thermite-based Titan, able to ignite large spaces with its area of effect flame-based attacks. The T-203 thermite launcher is a single-shot thermite grenade launcher that is devastating to be hit by. The offensive ability is a firewall from your hand, which can be used to ignite your utility canisters of flammable gas. The defensive ability is the thermal shield, which functions like the vortex shield from Ion without the ability to absorb incoming fire, but instead burns anything in front of it. Which finally leads into the flame core ability that sends a shock wave of thermite towards anything in front of you. If well placed, it's probably considered one of the more effective core abilities. North Star is the flight/sniper variant of Titan. The plasma railgun can be charged up for high-impact long-range shots. Utility ability allows for a slow and short but useful hover that can be used to fire over cover. The offensive ability is a cluster missile that can be used to draw out or blow out enemies inside of buildings. The defensive ability this time is a tether trap that is really only good for holding your enemy down while you make a quick escape. Then finally, we have the flight core, an ability that allows you to hover over your enemies, firing a swarm of missiles, and quite honestly, might be the worst core ability of the bunch. Flying up in the air for that long leaves you exposed to anyone looking, and the rockets for some reason do not do enough damage to seem all that threatening. Ronin is probably one of the more difficult Titans to play as, having the regular melee attack be a wide sword to swing rather than your Titan's fist, and the primary weapon being the lead wall shotgun,
I'm trying to sneak up on him so long.
requiring you to get very up close to other Titans to do meaningful damage. The offensive ability is the Arc Wave, which functions like Scorch's firewall. It is made of electricity so it slows enemies down, allowing you to catch up and make quick work of them with your melee. The defensive ability is a sword block that lowers the amount of damage taken, and the utility being a phase dash that allows you to get up close and teleport out and back in, even behind your enemies to surprise them. The core ability is your sword core. It increases the amount of damage your melee ability does, while also buffing your dash recharge to almost infinite levels. This combination of abilities makes Ronin a seriously deadly opponent when in the right hands, and quite flimsy when not maneuvering properly, explaining the high difficulty. If you see a Ronin that's been alive longer than 5 minutes, just run. He'll catch up. Tone, for the beginning of the game, was considered to be the most powerful of the 6 because of his ability to dish out rockets continuously, with his offensive ability being able to shoot around corners. If you hit your opponent 3 times with your primary 40mm tracker cannon, or lock onto them with your sonar utility, you create a lock that then fires a volley of rockets towards them. Defensively, you could drop a particle wall that would block any incoming fire for a short time, but could be removed instantly by any electrical-based attacks. The real threat, however, was the SALVO core. It fires a field of reticle-targeted rockets that would go wherever you were pointing, making the common tactic to look straight up and fire rockets towards the sky. Then look at your target while each rocket would then perfectly make contact each time. It was devastating, and unlike other core abilities, there was practically no good way to dodge this attack in outdoor or high-ceiling areas. Then finally, we have Legion, which was my personal favorite for quite some time. Legion is probably the tankiest Titan, with his ability to push up on enemies using the Predator Cannon, which can deploy a gun shield to stop forward-facing fire. Utility changes the fire mode of the Predator Cannon, either using inaccurate close-range rounds or long-range precision rounds. Changing the fire mode has also changed the type of offensive ability, from an overloaded shotgun burst or a charged long-range power shot. The core ability being the Smart Core, which automatically locks onto targets and fires an infinite sustained fire as long as the targets are in view and the ability is active. Legion is for sure the slowest of the bunch, next to Scorch, but going head-to-head with one was quite the challenge without other Titans to back you up. Then best for last, and what eventually became my main, was Monarch. The Titan was added into the game for free during the game's 5th free DLC. Monarch is another medium chassis Titan that focuses on the campaign's depiction of the Vanguard class, giving you the ability to have your Titan evolve in abilities over the course of the match. Monarch is special in that every other Titan is expendable. If you lose any of the other ones, it's no worry, you'll just get another by the time the round is over. But Monarch is about survival and investment, rather than one single-use powerful move to dish out major damage with. Different sections of Monarch's offensive, defensive, or utility abilities could all be upgraded each time you got another core. The primary weapon being the EXO-16, a 20mm automatic rifle. Offensively, you have a short-fired rocket salvo. Defensively, it's an energy siphon that would load a little bit of shield onto your Titan depending on the size of your target, while also slowing down your enemy for a short time. Normally, shields are only obtained by stealing batteries from other players. But with Monarch's energy siphon, it actually gave you a different approach to this. The utility is Rearm, an ability that would reload all other abilities and your dash meters instantly after completion. Monarch is quite the different machine compared to the other Titans, but I like it because it reminded me of why I enjoyed Titanfall 1 so much. Back in that game, I would try to make my Titan last as long as I could, while this version of it rewarded me for that type of playstyle. Monarch is my most leveled Titan by far, and that alone makes it pretty obvious what my go-to was. On the other side of the spectrum, pilot loadouts are highly more customizable and capable in terms of speed and mobility compared to the Titans. The Titan loadouts have small amounts of customizable elements, like picking a Titan in Titanfall kit along with a Titan class specific kit. But abilities and weapons are all locked in, and the only exception being Monarch, for which core abilities can be customized. But pilots? Everything about them can be completely changed. Your main pilot ability, 3 different weapon types, your primary, secondary, and an anti-Titan weapon, which during launch you could only pick 2, either your secondary or an anti-Titan weapon. Luckily, down the line, a patch was released that rebalanced the weapon system to allow you to have up to 3, giving pilots a much better chance at handling other pilots and Titans at the exact same time. Each weapon can also have up to 2 mods equipped. Personal favorites being Gunrunner, that allows you to hip fire while sprinting, and Speed Loader, which lets you reload faster. You also have the option of equipping a Pro Screen, which tracks how much XP you have earned for the weapon after it regenerates once. Regenerating being the game's version of Prestige from the COD series. You also have 2 passive kit abilities. Personal favorites once again, being Low Profile for sneaking up on Titans, and Ordnance Expert for better grenade recharge and precision. Looking at pilot abilities, I pretty much only ever used Grapple and Stim. Movement abilities are so versatile. Because of the game's core movement mechanics, it feels like Grapple should just be something given to you as a core option. The rest all function in very minimal ways in comparison. I mean, just look at this. Lastly, you have your pilot boosts, an ability or piece of equipment that is unlocked after a certain percentage of your Titan meter is filled. And honestly, I only ever use ticks because of my sense of timing for when to use the boosts is so bad, I just get killed directly after activating one. And ticks stack, allowing you to just throw them out and forget about them. Meanwhile, the community gave them the name of Spicy Boys, which got memed into the ground and even encouraged by the devs. The interaction between pilots and Titans always feels so incredibly stressful on the pilot side. 80% of the time, I feel like I'm running for my fucking life, and the other 20% I feel like I finally have the drop on someone. As a pilot, you have the option to sneak up and rodeo onto an enemy Titan's back and either the first time steal a battery or the second time drop a grenade into the empty socket. A common way to do this is to use Cloak, a good way to close the distance undetected, because to a Titan you are completely invisible, but to a pilot you are fairly translucent or opaque. But once you are on top of a Titan, the pilot inside is instantly alerted of your presence. If they've been alive long enough for their core meter to charge, they can pop electric smoke to try and get you to jump off, or you'll be killed before the battery or grenade throw animation finishes, unless you use the pilot kit, Low Profile, which delays the amount of time until the pilot inside the Titan gets notified that you aren't friendly, because without it, the notification pop-up is instant. With the stolen battery, you can either use it to give your own Titan shields, or jump on top of a friendly Titan and give them shields, a good way to support your team. It's an interesting mechanic that creates good incentive for you to even attempt this super risky maneuver. In Titanfall 1, when rodeoing an enemy Titan, you'd peel off a panel and just shoot your pistol into it endlessly until the Titan reached its doom state, making it so that your only defense without electric smoke or a cluster missile would be to leave the safety of the Titan and shoot the person off your back. But it was pretty disorienting to attempt this most of the time. You'd just be instantly killed by the enemy player, and the Titan AI would be too stupid to try and fend off the enemy pilot if you died, leaving you at a complete disadvantage, and most likely, now without a Titan. The new system doesn't let the pilot do nearly as much damage by rodeoing, but gives you options to support the rest of your team. It's some of these mechanical interactions that make Titanfall 2 so special. The entire premise has allowed the team at Respawn to let creativity thrive in a genre that has had so many uninspired entries as of the last decade. Sure, the level of polish on a lot of these titles has gone through the roof over this span of time, but no one has been attempting to innovate game modes like Team Deathmatch into Attrition, or innovating core combat mechanics into jumping on the backs of your enemies, or movement into more than just sprinting. My favorite example of Titanfall 2's movement going beyond what other games have tried is their version of the slide. Sliding in this game is more like sledding. You can activate a slide into cover whenever you would like, but if you're on a slope, you can either keep up the momentum or gain it, which then can be chained into a jump that will send you flying. While other games just give you a way to enter cover in a more nimble way, Titanfall 2 has made this recently standard mechanic not only work perfectly with the other movement mechanics of the game, but now the level design. In the first game, walls are specifically placed for you to take advantage of. Now, Titanfall 2 has given you so many options of interactivity, it's like they covered every single possible angle of movement and approach. I have no idea how you expand on and improve this already extremely well thought out mechanical masterpiece. Spoilers for the whole campaign ahead. Skip to this time to avoid it. You have 3 seconds. The game starts with the classic tutorial level to try and get you used to the idea of what high-level play will look like before taking you back to the basics. You're dropped into a simulation by your mentor, Captain Lastimosa, which is perfect for getting you used to core game mechanics. Starting the practice with your movement abilities, and your first being your ability to jump. Then running, the next having you combine them into wall running. Next sledding, and then finally going on to double jumping. From here you start to learn gun mechanics with a shooting range.
Be ready to use any weapon you can find on the field. These are just a few of the weapons I've come across out there.
Realizing that some weapons actually have a horizontal recoil instead of your typical vertical. In between each of the two mechanics that you are introduced to, Lastimosa explained the little backstory about the world you are in and the war you are fighting.
This is what we're fighting for, Cooper. A world that's not metal.
The pacing is a little all over the place in these moments, trying to get you up to speed while introducing gameplay, but overall it gets the job done for a setup. As always, the game has been designed for a core gaming audience, so newcomers are probably going to be disoriented in this first area longer than anyone in the core audience might expect. After all this, you are introduced to the Gauntlet, an obstacle course that lets you pick a few different weapon options to see what playstyle you might like. What makes the Gauntlet so well designed is that you can have a low skill player complete it using traditional movement methods and a high skill player that can get world record runs that as of writing this video is 11.1 seconds by Cash Mayo. It shows you all that the game has to offer in a short course, and if you spend some time here, you really have the ability to practice all of your core pilot skills. Titanfall 2's campaign does a pretty good job at keeping you interested in what's going to come next, thanks to its classic game design philosophy. The structure has been around since Super Mario Bros. Obstacles appear in a small sandbox to allow you to get comfortable, then you face a challenge ahead with a skill check. Then after each section is beaten, the challenge is expanded on and adjusted until they've run out of ideas so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Thanks to this approach, many sections of the campaign have some outstanding moments that just ooze creativity. During development, Respawn devs referred to this step as designing action blocks, allowing for designers to spend up to 2 weeks on level designs that are small, compact areas, and trying to get out as many ideas as they could, taking the approach that this would move them away from the movie-like set pieces and focus harder on the moment-to-moment gameplay of each level, which can explain how each section of the campaign feels very self-contained at times. Mechanics inside of levels build on each other with each new chapter, but never carry over to the next level unless it's a core game mechanic. One example of this being the arc tool during the mission, The Beacon. The level is set up with some good mobility and force platforming that is structured to be circular. The end of the second chapter is exactly where the start was.
That was impressive, pilot.
Giving you a small Metroidvania-like hint about what you might need to actually progress the level. The arc tool got its design from an action block that started with the idea of using a smart pistol for activating and dropping platforms on the fly, later to be iterated into the arc tool, an auto-targeting electrical beam. The arc tool is used as a switch activation device, but the types of obstacles that are activated with the device change into a few different things. Blocking incoming wind, activating gusts of air from fans, deactivating gusts of air from the fans, and activating walls of switches while your health drops to 0 in a nuclear reactor, and then back to activating switches. With the last optional objective of activating stalkers to fight for you during the IMC's final assault during the run for the backup battery. And when the level ends, you never see the arc tool again, never having it overstay its welcome. Now to the game's most well-designed and complex level by far, Effect and Cause. Effect and Cause really hits all the moments you expect out of this type of game design. The level is designed around the idea of time travel, starting out with you having no control over what moment in time you seem to be experiencing, getting you accustomed to the idea in some linear story sections so that you can see how the mechanic actually affects everything around you.
What happened to everyone here?
Their bodies have aged unusually. However, some show signs of weapon fire.
Once you finally get used to the unique design of Effect and Cause during its first half, which is a destroyed facility with broken zombie-like stalkers and Typhon's quick and agile native predator, the Prowler. Then with the time-traveling mechanic, it has you facing IMC forces that push you out of the line of sight with projectiles, making some very intense and non-stop combat arenas where time hopping is a necessity to avoid one enemy type, only to find yourself face-to-face with another on the other side. All the while, obstacles in one timeline will be removed and replaced in different locations in time. It's the theming of this complex being destroyed in the future versus pristinely built in the past. The enemies that require different movement strategies that force you to jump through time to get yourself out of bad situations, that then launches you into completely new situations. And platforming design that is as simple as the Mario red-blue panel. The level is a masterpiece. A good deal of it has all been done in other places before, but the sum of the level's parts and the ideas at play are all polished up to such a pristine shine it stands out like nothing else in this package. Effect and Cause really deserves the recognition it gets, and if you spoiled it for yourself by watching this, you fool, why did you not skip to this? The narrative in a station drama format works quite well on top of the gameplay. You and BT trek across Typhon running into obstacle after obstacle until finally regrouping with the militia at the end of the 4th mission. Every mission is very self-contained, but the story still flows properly. There's a lot of personality showing in each character, making the writing feel like it had a bit more care than just the average shooter plot. Especially the relationship between BT and Jack that grows as the game goes on. The game has these interesting dialogue choices that are fed into the game in real time. Sometimes you get to say both options to BT, sometimes you only get to say one.
I think somebody's in love.
A human's concept of love requires admiration, attraction, devotion, and respect. Conclusion: I am 50% in love.
It's an interesting idea for replayability, with some responses being jokes and others a more serious tone,
Major Anderson, it is our only chance of survival.
making you feel like you have a little agency with BT, and your relationship is built off more than just your performance with him during the levels, and actually what you wanted to say to him. Originally, BT starts out quite robotic, and there being some good moments of him not understanding the nuance of colloquialisms, making it for some good fun. It shows BT's growth over time, as he begins to understand the complexity of human interactions. What probably builds the relationship better than anything else is the fastball motif. Throughout the game, you are thrown by BT a total of 3 times, following a classic screenwriting technique. The first time to show you how it's done, the second with a little more challenge, and the third being BT's final sacrifice, followed by the game's most intense platforming challenge by far. It's a profoundly well set up moment, and it hits home the bond between BT and Jack being more than man and machine. They were partners till the end, maybe beyond that if Titanfall 3 ever actually happens. The other characters in the campaign don't get much of a spotlight, but the little bit that we do end up seeing of everyone, the performances are spot on.
Just doing my job.
This guy.
And give a lot of character. I just wish we got to see a little bit more of the 6'4", and Barker, that drunk bastard. We get to see a little moment of them in action, but considering that they are the opposing end of the bosses you fight throughout the campaign, I would have loved to have seen them all geared up with each of their own personal Titans.
That's how it's done.
Not only that, but we never see another Titan with as much personality as BT. It would be interesting to see an antagonist equivalent.
Ready to transfer control to pilot.
Boss fights feel a little bit duller than they should. They don't have any more challenge than any of the other Titans you fight in the game, with the exception of Viper, the subreddit's favorite.
Your journey ends here, pilot. The skies belong to me. Nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide.
Viper is clearly the most memorable boss fight because his abilities expand his Titan's moveset rather than just sticking it to the basics. He flies around above you, taking shots much higher than any other North Star could, while also dropping missiles on you at any chance he gets. The fight ends with Viper taking one final swing at you and BT as he drags you both into the air. Ending in BT ripping open the cockpit of Viper's Titan and you shooting inside to end the whole thing. It's a way grander ending than just shooting the boss and they pop like any other enemy. Yet those small little details don't tarnish or diminish what is otherwise an insanely well-crafted campaign. It could have very easily been COD's high-octane explosion set pieces where you do nothing but watch people get thrown around by shockwaves for 40 minutes and call it good. Or, you could actually be thrown by a giant robot you fall in love with as he sacrifices himself for the greater good of humanity, enacting Protocol 3.
Protect the pilot.
But who knows, maybe there is more to come. The story left a couple of pretty good cliffhangers to keep the game rolling if we ever get to that point. Blisk got away, and BT being trapped inside of Jack's helmet is copied code. I've said it more times than I can count, not just in this video but to friends looking for something to play. The game is a masterpiece of design and creativity. It raises the bar for shooters, not just what they can do, but in value. I never really even dug into the great co-op mode called Frontier Defense, which is essentially a tower defense mode where every Titan class has a separate upgrade tree called Apex abilities that expand your Titan into being way more powerful than it already is. There is a lot going very, very right with this game. The only thing holding it back was a bad launch, and a skill curve that feels high only because the people that have been playing it for the last 4 years have pretty much mastered everything about it. I guess if there is anything left to say, for Titanfall 3, I only have 4 wishes. I tried to make it 3, but I couldn't leave it at that. Bring back the Doomsday Alert. For some reason, that noise is the most nostalgic thing about this series, and it was a pretty good quality of life feature that got left behind. The option for first or third person Titan entrance animations. It made the first game feel insanely immersive. Maybe even some hybrid of the two, like when you enter BT in the campaign. Bring back Titan class customization, even if you have to limit it so that each Titan class only has a set number of options, unlike the freeform customization like pilots. And finally, make the grapple hook a core gameplay ability. The movement opportunities it gives you in player expression are so wide in scope that it makes every other pilot ability feel useless. The community joke of the grapple main is here for a reason. It's damn satisfying to use. I have no idea if we will ever get a Titanfall 3. Fans have been dying to see this series continue after showing the world that Respawn knows exactly what they are doing. There is so much talent and creativity behind all their works, it would be a shame not to follow it up with a final entry. Maybe more beyond that. Right now, I'm just shooting for 3. If you're interested in this stuff like I am, check out the GDC talk about Respawn's workflow with the game and their action block-led game design. They even mentioned Titans vs. Pilots was a matchup that they never figured out for this campaign and left it on the table for something else down the line. So from a creative to another group of creatives. I know you guys want to try and figure out how to make that work, and I would really like to see you guys do it. Anyways, thanks for watching. Check out Titanfall 2. See ya.